Thanks, Christy. It's nice to be here, and thanks for turning up and listening to me talk about the Leyland graphite deposit. What am I doing? Oh, it is. Okay, this has to catch up. Sorry about that. There we go. So that's just a summary of my talk this morning to you about Leyland graphite. Just a summary there. We've got a large graphite deposit, like Christy said, the largest in Australia. It's about 2.5 hours drive south of Darwin in the Northern Territory. We've got a very large exploration target as well associated with that. It's a very potentially very big deposit, and you'll see the details of that in the presentation. We've done some preliminary metallurgical test work. We can get a high-grade concentrate from this, and we're currently doing some more test work in Germany to make purified spherical graphite, which are used in car batteries and storage batteries. Like I said, we're close to the Port of Melbourne, the Port of Darwin as well. More importantly as well, recently we announced a partnership with Crinbrook Infrastructure Partners. They took a 15% stake in the company late last year, and they'll work with us to develop this project and some more downstream processing in Darwin as well, which I'll go through in the presentation in a little while. So just where we are there, 250 kilometres south of Darwin, around Pine Creek. The Pine Creek area is an historical gold mining area, so there's lots of support for mining industry in the local area there. They're used to having a lot of gold mines there, open pits, trucks, mining, that sort of stuff there. So the local community is very supportive of our proposed activities there and the exploration we've been doing. It's a great spot also as far as infrastructure goes. You can see there we're very close to existing sealed highways, railway lines, high voltage power lines, gas pipelines and things like that. And I suppose also significantly with and I'll explain a bit later, we're very close to the proposed route of the power lines from the Sun Cable project, which Crinbrook is also looking at building sometime soon. So we can tap into, hopefully in the future, renewable energy from that project as well. So it's a great spot to do work there, and we're very happy to be up there with the NT government. They're very supportive as well. So what we've got here, we've got a mineral resource there. And some drilling there. We discovered this project in early 2023 and we announced it to the market. We did some drilling in 2023 and came up with an inferred resource and we released that about 12 months ago. We did some more drilling last year and we got an indicated resource there. I suppose on that little box there, you can see that's the important thing to note there. That's where we did our drilling last year, and that's where our indicated resource is as part of the total resource package there. And you can see on the next slide there, we released this yesterday morning, the indicated resource. It's only a very small resource at this stage. We've taken a very small bite-sized part of the large project there. You can see on the, I'll try and highlight it here I can't, do that slide there, but you can see that very small little area there, a little blue part in the middle of that grey area. That's the indicated resource there. So you can see it's a very small part of the overall resource, and the exploration target there, which I'll show you on the next slide, is fairly extensive as well. So we've taken a fairly prudent approach to developing this project. We'll take a very small bite-sized lump of it, we'll drill it out to indicated, we'll do a scoping study, and pending success on that later on this year, we'll move to more drilling and upgrade that resource and upscale the whole project. So there's a cross-section of it there. You can see it's fairly wide. That section there is about 140 metres wide. That's on the northwestern part of the indicated resource, outcrops, 100 metres wide. The darker grey areas in that slide there show you where there's some high-grade components above 10%. So when we do our final mine planning, we can target these high-grade areas which are more amenable to the processing as well. So it gives us flexibility along the strike length there to pick out the best bits, pick out the eyes, and put that in the processing plant first. So there's the exploration target there, and there's the resource. So you can see that little small area in blue down towards the bottom of that big red line there. That's the indicated resource. The rest of it is a contact zone between carbonaceous sediments and granites, and the granites have cooked up the carbon in the sediments into graphite. So we've got this zone of about 100 metres wide graphitic schist right along that contact zone there. So you can see, it's about 20 metres strike length in total there. We've only drilled about a quarter of that, and we've got that resource of near on 200 million tonnes. So there's considerable upside there. So as we go through the process, like I mentioned before, and we de-risk the project and get positive results from scoping study and metallurgical test work, at some stage in the future we can upscale this project, do some more drilling along strike, and make this a considerably large project as well. So with the metallurgical test work, I said we've done some preliminary work. We managed to get a 94% grade concentrate from our initial test work, which gave us confidence that we can produce a marketable product. The next step is what use that product for. We've just put together a 7 kilogram sample of graphite, and we've sent that off to Germany for further test work. And that'll be to be making spherical purified graphite, which is one of your precursors into your car batteries. We should get results from that back in the next month or two. Excuse me. And that'll give us that end product to use for the battery industry as well. So this is our the final outline of what we're aiming to do. I've got a slide coming up soon with the more details about the Quinbrook deal we've done, but the plan now is for Kingsland to develop a graphite mine at Pine Creek and produce graphite flake concentrate. And we'll transport that concentrate up to Darwin, and then Quinbrook will be in charge of constructing a downstream processing facility there to make purified spherical graphite. Now, we've signed an offtake agreement with Quinbrook already. I guess we've done it a bit different from most other companies. Most companies develop the project, do your feasibility work, and then look for the offtake partner. We've been lucky to work with Quinbrook, and we've reversed that now. So we've got the offtake already before we've actually got the project economically viable and done any feasibility work. So it takes the pressure off us to develop the project. We know we've got a customer for our flake graphite. So once we prove we can produce that spherical graphite in Germany, and the test work coming up soon, it's push the button time to develop our project, and then that will also be a catalyst for Quinbrook to start looking at their downstream plant in Darwin. So I'll just go through the process here as well while it's up there. It's a typical mining operation, open pit, shovel trucks, things like that. It goes into a fairly typical plant where you crush and grind it, and then your flotation circuits there. You float the graphite concentrate, like I said, around 94%. You truck that up to Darwin, and then the process there is they micronise the flake graphite, which is the first process to make it into a consistent size flake. And then you spheronise it, which is to make it into very small little balls. They're often described as potato-like shapes, about 10 to 15 microns across. And then you purify that to 99.95% carbon, and that's your precursor into batteries. The next step is to coat it with a bitumen layer of carbon, and that makes your active anode material, and that's what goes into your car batteries and your storage batteries. So just the graphite market and what we're looking to be producing and where it's going. You can see there that obviously the demand for graphite has been driven a lot in the last few years and will be into the future with batteries, not just electric vehicle batteries, but also storage batteries as well. You know, it's interesting now a lot of governments are proposing rebates for solar storage batteries on houses and things like that. They all need graphite. A lot of people are talking about large batteries, to provide power when there's no renewable energy. So they all require graphite as well. So there's a big demand for graphite going forward for these, for these battery usages. And you can see there that graph on the right-hand side there with just EV car sales. It's largely driven out of China. I think we're all aware now that China is really cranking up their car production in China and making a lot of relatively cheap-priced electric cars, which I think will be flooding the world's markets very shortly if they haven't already started to do so. So I think just through weight of economics, a lot of cheap cars using batteries will become available. Well, they are now, but more so in the future. So they all need a lot of graphite. You can see that little pie chart on the right-hand side there. Like a typical battery might have 50 kilograms of graphite. So you times that by several million cars every year. It's a lot of graphite. And you can see this forecast here of the proportion of the graphite production which goes into batteries. You can see here down the 2025 is down the bottom end of that graph. So as we move forward and there's an increased demand for batteries, the graphite will be going predominantly into that end product rather than the traditional industrial usages, which don't change much over that forecast. So this is, again, Quinbrook. They've also recently announced a project in Queensland where they're building some very, very large-scale batteries there with 8-hour capacity for discharge overnight. So these things need a lot of graphite. So you can sort of see here why Quinbrook is interested in our project up in the NT there. They do a lot of battery installations. They build a lot of facilities in North America and Britain using solar panels, wind power and battery storage as well. So they've gone into the upstream part of the supply chain to make sure they can secure graphite supplies. And you can see why in this next graph here, because most graphite comes out of China. China dominates the mining of flake graphite. They produce about 3/4 of it in the world, and they totally dominate the production of active anode material, those little spheres of graphite which go into your car battery. They produce nearly 99% of the world's supply. So the world now is totally dependent on supply of graphite and processed graphite out of China. And given all of the recent issues we're seeing around the world now with trade tariffs and barriers and things like that, I think to diversify that supply away from one country is probably a prudent thing to do. And I think we're very well placed to take advantage of that. So just to go back with our Quinnebrook partners there, like I said, they're a very large fund. They've invested billions of dollars North America, Australia and the UK. They've recently commissioned the largest solar plant in the USA, in Nevada, which supplies about 10% of Nevada's power. They've done the same thing in the UK. They've got the largest solar farm and power generation from solar in the UK, and they're planning to do the same thing here in the Northern Territory with their Sun Cable project, which will supply a lot of power up to Darwin and ultimately to Singapore, although Quinnebrook's only looking at stage 1 at this stage to Darwin. So they've come into Kingsland, I think, to secure supply of graphite, like I said, but also if we build a processing plant and they build a processing plant in Darwin, that increases the offtake for their renewable energy as well. So it all sort of ties into their project. And it's very important to stress too that we've signed the offtake agreement with them already, so we're a little bit quarantined from the world market for graphite. Graphite prices now are very low, but we aren't going into the open market for that. We've already signed an offtake with Quinnebrook. They will take all of our graphite supply, or we can supply them with as much as they need, either or. So we've already got that locked in. So once we prove viability of our side of the project, it's up to them to prove viability of their second stage of the project in Darwin. And we will have a nice little domestic chain there of graphite supply and graphite manufacturing in the Northern Territory. So we aren't going, it's important to, you can't stress that we're not selling this in the open market. We've already got a contract with Quinnebrook, and they'll buy our concentrate at an agreed price rather than market price. And that's the market price now. You can see it's fairly low. That graph goes back to 2016. There is some evidence to suggest that the market is being flooded by cheaper graphite. You can make an alternative, synthetic graphite, which is being made in China at the moment, and that's affecting the price. I think on this, no, I haven't got that slide yet. We had a few slides I had to take out with the ASX, so there's a couple of things missing that I was going to talk about, but it's graphite tariffs. I think there's a 25% tariff on natural graphite coming into the USA from China, but I'm not quite sure because, as we all are aware, the tariff markets are changing pretty quickly. But there are significant tariffs in there for natural graphite and synthetic graphite coming into the USA. So I think that also precipitates the impetus to get supplies from outside of China. So just a summary of what we've got there. We've got a big resource there. We've upgraded a portion of that to indicated, which will form the basis of a scoping study. We can make a marketable concentrate of 94% carbon, and that's already been done. We've got samples over in Germany now to produce purified spherical graphite, which is our end product for battery use, and we're doing that right now, and we hope to announce that in the next 2 or 3 months. We've already started some preliminary work on our mining studies, pit design, optimisations and mining schedules and things like that. We've applied for mining lease in the NT as well, and that's being advertised this week, so hopefully we'll start that process as well. So we're all looking set to have a scoping study complete in the second half of this year. I'm hoping the September quarter, but we'll see how we go. And we're expecting that to be positive. If it is, we will push the button on more feasibility work, which is a lot more drilling, more metallurgical test work, and then working hand in hand with Quinnebrook to develop that downstream plant in Darwin as well. So it's just a summary there. Large deposit, great location. The graphite market is positive as far as future demand goes, so there's markets for it. And we've got a partnership with a strategic partner there who likes graphite and likes building battery installations. So I think everything's looking pretty positive in the future for Leyland Graphite. So if you've got any questions, please come and see us in the booth there. And thank you very much for listening.